Good afternoon. Welcome to the Public Safety Town Hall meeting. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I feel like I'm on an oral board, so if you guys want to sit up here, I'll ask you a couple of questions on why you want this job or something like that. So actually, I know you could be doing other things. I know they have the Democratic primary debate today. They have Game 3 of the College World Series. You could have been there for that, but you guys are here, so thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Larks. Thank you, especially. You're my buddy. And so today's an opportunity for us to talk about public safety. Myself, I'm the Ruben Chavez, police chief here, Captain Chris Soria, and Fire Chief Baraka Carter. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we do in our individual departments, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions about public safety. So if I can get somebody to grab me the lights real quick, Willie. Thank you. That's good, Catherine. Thank you. Not there tomorrow. Thank you. So there's a couple of pages I put up here, and you might have seen these before in some of the previous council presentations, but again, this is our police department. We have 30 members of our department, both sworn in and civilian staff, and we're responsible for 24/7 coverage for the police department. We do have an outstanding dispatch center, which is manned by, or I should say woman by, female dispatchers who dispatch for not only for Livingston PD, but also for Gustine PD. I want to talk about real quickly about statistics. The UCR Part 1 crimes, and I made this presentation before in council, but these are the UCR are basically the more serious crimes that you see up there right now. So the statistics between 16 and 17, you'll see the Part 1 crimes. The biggest one that went up was robberies. We went basically from 6 to 12 from 2016 2017, but overall their overall crimes were down about 20%. Going from 2017 to 2018, very similar, only a 3% overall increase, but a little bit of a significant increase in our stolen autos. And so 34% increase in stolen autos, and our officers did a great job identifying some of those suspects and arresting them. And if you know some of the legislation that came about over the last several years, Prop 47, Prop 57, it basically made property crimes a low priority, and an effort to try to reduce prison population. And so some of the effects that took place were a little bit, the property crimes increased a little bit. Calls for service, from 2017 to 2018, we had about the same number of calls overall, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3s, the totals. However, if you look at priority 1s, those are the more serious calls for service. We actually increased about 800 calls for service, which is a lot. However, our priority 3s were reduced a little bit. So, but overall, about the same number of calls. And the response times were actually a lot better for priority 1s. Again, those heavy calls, those calls you want the police there as soon as possible. From the first call coming in until the arrival of the officer, the average time was about 3 minutes. And for a town our size, that's really, really good. However, priority 3s, which are more of the lower priority type calls, increased a little bit. And again, I'm speaking strictly for PD, fire department. They have their own statistics. However, when we get a call that does come in for a fire call, whether it's an accident, whether it's some sort of injury, our dispatchers will refer them to fire dispatch to get those calls out. The reports, and I bring this up to kind of show the overall number of reports taken by our department as well as the Gustine Police Department. If you look at the difference between 2017-18, our PD went up just a smidgen, about 50 calls for reports in 1 year, which is not too bad. If you look at Gustine PD, they went out quite a bit, and some of the reasons is they're actually taking more reports on things that they didn't take reports on before, so they did go up quite a bit. If you look at the incidences are when our officers respond to a call, may contact in the field where they're not taking a report, but they're doing something, an incident report is created. And so our incidents actually went down a little bit. both in Livingston and in Gustine. One of the things we pride ourselves on is putting together strategic plans, and this is actually the 2020 strategic plan is a plan it's a 3-year plan and looking at different goals. This is our second strategic plan we did put out for the PD. The first one was a 3-year plan. This is basically a roadmap for our department members to follow and in making sure our community is safe. And some of the objectives were reducing incidents of gang violence, reducing property crimes, increasing enforcement of narcotics violations, increasing the opportunity for personnel to attend high-quality training, and then increasing public relations and involvement. Those are the 5 objectives, and we have different criteria to rate how we're doing in those areas. One thing that we did do early on about, I think it's about 2012, we had a department-wide management, basically a workshop where we came together and tried to identify ways how we could work closer together as a managerial team to ensure safety of our community. And we came up with a new mission statement. So the mission statement that we came up with as a group was, our mission is to provide professional and law enforcement services intended to impact the quality of life through commitment, education, and community partnerships. And that's been in place since that time. Now, one of the things I did actually last week is I went online to just try to find, I know there's lots of articles on try to improve our relations with the police. One of the things I found interesting was, it was titled 15 Things You Should Never Do When You Get Pulled Over. And while it sounds kind of tongue-in-cheek, it actually had some really good words of wisdom and advice that I have the, if you pull up the author's name or actually the magazine that it came out of, I actually have the link on the bottom if you want to take a look at that. But these are 15 things that you should not do if you ever get pulled over. And I want to go over them real quickly. Don't panic. Again, anytime an officer makes contact in the field with a person, motorist, it's one of those situations we as officers need to make sure that we're safe when we make contact with the residents, whether it's a simple traffic stop for a stop sign. We don't know who we're going to come in contact with. It could be somebody who's very, very dangerous, and we don't know. You know, we're wearing our bands on our badges because we lost a Sacramento officer last week. She was shot through the door by a suspect who had a high-power rifle, and her funeral is actually tomorrow. So it's one of those things, you don't know who you're coming in contact with. So if you panic or act a little different, then it kind of raises our senses, and we want to make sure that we don't do anything, to escalate it. So we, just remain calm. Always wear your seatbelt. If you get stopped, don't take your seatbelt off, because if an officer comes up to you, he might not have seen the seatbelt being worn, and it's better not to be moving your hands around. Just leave your seatbelt on, and you can take that off after you're asked for your license or something to that effect. One of the things is the officer is going to come up to you, he's going to ask you for your driver's license, registration, insurance, and he's going to explain some things. The first thing is you don't want to all of a sudden start hammering with questions, because you want to create an environment where it's actually a mutual, respectful situation. So the officer has a job to do, and the more positive the exchange of dialogue, the more positive the results will be. Now, this is a hard one. Don't argue. I know if you've been stopped for something and you believe you weren't responsible for what you're being accused of, that's not the time to argue. The officers we do make mistakes. We might see something and we don't record it right, we don't see it right. The proper resolution for that is basically court. Let a judicial system look at that and figure out if it's warranted or not. And again, police officers do make mistakes, and police officers aren't going to get upset if they go to court and they lose a traffic ticket. I mean, I worked traffic for many years, and I've lost cases. It's one of those things, and it's up to the judge. That's the proper venue for argument. Don't reach for your license. It goes without saying. Officers are on high alert. They don't want to see a situation where somebody's reaching for something. They don't know what you're reaching for. So, usually the best thing is just to hold on to the steering wheel, and once they ask you for a license, then you can go ahead and unbuckle and reach for your license. And then don't put your hands out of sight. Don't be fumbling with things in your glove box and things like that. Just keep your hands on your steering wheel, and that's the safest thing to do. Don't admit guilt. That's part of that. That's the article of prevention. Don't admit guilt. Sometimes it's better just to not say anything. And if you know you're wrong, let the facts speak for themselves. Don't leave your car. That's probably one of the worst things you do is getting pulled over and jumping out of the car immediately, coming towards the officer because you want to explain something. I've seen a lot of situations where somebody might be needing to go to the restroom or they're having a baby, something like that. Once the officer, don't jump in a car because that's what really the red flags go up and the spider senses start tingling. Something's going on here, and that's where you want to make sure you're safe, and because then it kind of starts to go a certain way that you don't want it to go. Don't resist, and I think this is in the context if you're being stopped for something where it might be a misdemeanor, you might be drunk driving, things like that. You might have a warrant. Don't resist. That's another violation, and go along with the program. If it's something that is legitimate, again, if it's something you don't agree with, the proper venue for that is in the courtroom. Don't pull over in a potentially dangerous spot. Especially if you're on the freeway, you want to make sure you pull over in a safe location. You don't want to pull in a position where your vehicle's sticking out in traffic, or you're in an area where a lot of traffic is. Just try to pull over in a safe spot, especially if it's a very, very dark spot. Try to find a light stand that you can park under. Don't encroach on an officer's personal space. As officers, we're trained to have more of a character, a practice to be safe, and there's a personal bubble officers have that you should not encroach on. That when you get too close to an officer, we don't know what you're going to do. There's different training that we go through that teach you, hey, you want to keep a safe distance. They teach you when you're an officer how to stand, how to talk to people, how to keep the distance from somebody. Once you get too close to an officer, then you're basically encroaching on his safety in that bubble, and it has, again, the red alarm starts going off, like, what's this guy doing? So just make sure you stay at a safe distance. Don't do anything before understand your rights. Again, this goes along with the don't admit guilt. If you need to understand your rights, if you've done something where you actually have to be read your rights, if you feel like the officer is going to do something that's not appropriate, whether it's searching you without cause. There's officers are only allowed to search you under certain circumstances, and if you feel that those certain circumstances aren't met, then you can verbalize the officer, but understand your rights. And if you haven't done research those topics online, that's something I would recommend you do. Don't refuse to sign the citation. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you get pulled over and you end up getting cited for something you don't think you did, again, officers make mistakes, but don't argue it. The proper venue is in court, in the traffic court. Don't get distracted. A lot of times, as officers are talking to you, and they don't need you as a motorist to be fumbling on your phone, doing things, getting distracted. Obviously, having a contact with a police officer is bad enough, but being distracted, causing a little bit of chaos for the situation, it won't go as smoothly as it can unless you are paying attention and following the directions of the officer. And lastly, don't try to outrun the police. There are still departments in the state of California that will chase you until they catch you. Due to liability reasons, our supervisor will ensure that does not happen. We as a policy will not chase people unless you're a violent felon, a danger to the community, then that's a different story. But there are departments, CHP, they still chase you until they catch you. And so please don't try to outrun the police. Okay, one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, there's a lot of new laws, as I mentioned. SB 1421, which is allowing police personnel records to be released to the public, and that's being challenged, but it's something that our Attorney General did come out with a policy on that. AB 748, which will be enacted officially on July 1st. This is the release of video, whether it's body camera, in-car video, involving critical incidents, and the critical incident is identified in the penal code as any incident where somebody discharges a firearm, somebody is struck by a police officer's use of force, firearms, where somebody is arrested and suffers an injury that's identified or defined as GBR, great bodily injury, death or great bodily injury. So they define great bodily injury as that's something that's very, very serious, not a complaint of pain, not an abrasion, somebody who's got some serious contusions, broken bones, maybe somebody got struck in the head and they're bleeding profusely. Those are GBI, and so those are circumstances where the body camera or the car video can be released after 45 days unless there's pending litigation, pending investigations. And I bring this up. Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have showed this page. This is an incident where involving discharge of firearm, person or peace officer, injury, GBI, death or GBI, and you can hold it. And I bring this up because this is a law that's just coming about July 1st. And I'm speaking in general terms where we recently had an incident where I saw the video and I said, you know what, I'm going to release that video because I saw it and it shows that we did everything right. You know, this is a new hill to ski on, and I got ahead of my skis a little bit because after I realized what I was doing, I did not want to set up a precedent where in the future somebody wants to see a video that was not, that didn't fall under this criteria, and at that time I don't want to release it. I did not want to create a situation where we are releasing some videos and not others. My intent, and this decision was mine, following the law, is to ensure that we comply with AB 748, not only in the spirit, but in the letter. So any videos that come across our desk that meet the criteria, we will follow the law. We're going to release it after 45 days, unless there's pending pending investigations. If it doesn't meet that criteria, I'm not going to release it unless there's some sort of court order that's given to us to release it during a criminal investigation, things like that. Again, this is my decision, and again, I want to ensure that we comply with the law, but that we do not present a situation where we're picking and choosing which ones we want to release. And so, again, I want to throw that out, and I will be happy to answer any questions at the end of this presentation. One of the things I'm proud of is last year they did the calculation on all Part 1, Part 2 crimes, uniform crime reports based on the per capita rate of crimes, meaning for every 1,000 people, how many crimes were occurred. So we're comparing ourselves with other agencies that might be 100,000 people, 200,000 people, but by the rate of crimes that were committed in our town per capita, we ranked the 50th safest in the state, and that's something I'm proud of. I'm proud of our officers for the work that they do. I'm proud of our dispatchers for the work they do, and I'm proud that we did, end up in the top 50 of all there's 600 plus cities in the state. So it's nice to be able to say that we're in the top 50. And that's it. Before we go to Captain Carter, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
I've got a couple of questions back here.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Having to do with, this will be police department related.
Yes.
I've been to the ethics training a time or two as an observer. And one of the things that stuck in my brain was that the attorney would repeat over and over about how the state law is just the minimum. It's the floor. It's the bare minimum of what a person should or should not do. But just because the law is that floor does not mean you should strive to go above the floor. My question having to do with the body camera is, does the AB 748 prohibit specifically the release of non-critical incident body cam?
It doesn't necessarily prohibit, it provides a guideline like you mentioned. Departments are free to release the video if they want. And again, my decision is to stay within the spirit and letter of that law.
Wouldn't it be in the department's best interest as far as transparency with the public if there is another video out on the internet showing one side of a story to release the officer's side of the story so that even when the officer is fully exonerated, the public can see the officer's side of the story?
You know, as I mentioned, if you do that, you're setting up a precedent, and then you're deciding which ones you want to release in the future. And I'm not going to put our department in a situation where we're having to pick and choose what videos we're going to release.
I'm just afraid that in the future we're going to have this scenario where people are going to feel distrustful about the department if there is video out there that shows one side of a story and the other side of the story is not shown.
Okay, valid point.
I have another question having to do with when you're getting pulled over, a couple actually. What about when your registration or license is in a non-traditional location, say, for example, underneath a floor mat?
As far as retrieving it?
Yes.
Well, I'll answer that, and I'll let the captain, if he has any additional thoughts on that, is you wait till the officer asks you for it, and then you explain what you're doing, so he knows exactly what you're doing.
Okay, another one is, do we have any unmarked cars that might be pulling people over?
Yes.
Okay, following up on that, what should the average citizen, is it okay, well, I'm not going to say it's okay, but I've been advised that if you're in an area and you're being pulled over by an unmarked car and you're not really sure whether or not it's a police car or not, that you should call 911 and make sure that it's actually a real policeman who's behind you, not somebody who's gone and bought a rack of some kind and stuck it on top of their car.
There are numerous occasions where people are basically pretending to be an officer and pulling people over, and they've been, I think last week they actually tried to pull over a real cop and they end up getting arrested. So if it's one of those things, and if your discretion tells you, hey, I don't feel comfortable, go to a well-lit area, go to a gas station. You can call 911 if you like, but at some point you're going to have to find a location to pull over so it does not become into a pursuit situation.
One other thing, what I would also suggest, I'll tell you what I tell my daughter because she goes to Stanislaus State. I've already told her that if this happened, go to the nearest point that you feel that you're safe. If you see that you can't obviously tell that it's a police officer's car. But first thing, as soon as it happens, again, like I said, go to somewhere that you feel it's safe, but make sure that you follow all the laws. Don't start running through stop signs. Don't start speeding. Don't do things like that. Obviously, if something goes beyond just the lights trying to pull you over, then you're going to have to play that one by ear. But get to someplace safe where there's a lot of people. Make a phone call on 911 while you're actually trying to get pulled over, because there are people that are actually, and I do believe there was a guy in Winton that was doing that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would suggest it. If you don't feel comfortable, do those things.
Okay, this one, my last one is not exactly like a safety issue per se, but it has to do with our vehicle abatement ordinance. I have heard of people who have gone on extended vacations, say maybe they've gone to Mexico during the winter for 3-4 weeks or more, and come back and find that one of their vehicles have been towed. So what I want to know is, what is the person supposed to do who has a registered vehicle, a drivable registered vehicle that they're going to have parked in front of their house while they're out on vacation for 2, 3, 4 weeks or more? What should we do so our vehicle doesn't get towed?
They can call the police department, and we still do house checks. They can inform us and let us know. I know we have one of the officers here now that actually does the AVA program. You know, just let us know what's going on. I mean, we're going to work with the citizens here. I mean, we're not here to go out and do everything, you know, just to make their lives miserable. So we'll do what we can to help them out.
Yeah, I would add, if that person's leaving and there's somebody helping to watch the house, pick up the mail,
Yeah.
things like that, that they help make sure the car's kept in a condition where it's not going to look like it's abandoned. You know, the weeds grow up, they get real dusty, and you know, the AVA program itself is mostly geared towards those cars that are inoperable, in a condition, and so a lot of times, in fact, I'll refer to our AVA expert who's in the room, Corporal Kirk, who does a great job, and he actually keeps tabs, and he knows when cars have been there for a long time. You know, not just while on vacation, but if a car's there and it's been there, and I think for the most part, we give people a lot of extra time. We're not going to tell it within a 10 because what you have to do is you have to. Once you identify that, you have to mark it, and you send out the registered letter to the owner and to the legal owner and the registered owner, and you give them so much time, and then on top of that, you can give them another several weeks to comply with that law.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Let me give you the.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I do the citizen complaint that something happened to my son, okay? And then I received the letter. The officer was exonerated. I don't understand that when the police department or any department is in charge to do the investigation, I don't know if that police can still working or they can still in administrative leave.
And I'm not going to speak to your specific situation, but we're going to give you kind of in general terms. When an officer, and when there's a complaint against one of our officers, depends on how severe it is, Captain Soria will be aware of it right away. If it's something that a sergeant can investigate, then it will refer to the sergeant to investigate. And we basically, there's basically state laws on how we must conduct that investigation, AB 301, how we must conduct an investigation. That investigation will be completed, and if an officer is found to have, there's different categories, whether it's exonerated, sustained, frivolous, unfounded, the person who will make that final finding will be Captain Soria, and we will ensure. We want people to bring it to our attention when there's things that go wrong, because we want to ensure that we have a very professional police force. And so when things go on that might be viewed or construed as something that was done wrong, we want to know about those, and we'll investigate it. But by the same token, we will let you know if the conduct of that officer, was appropriate, whether it was lawful, and we will let you know that. That's our obligation.
And then how can I explain this one, the doctor report? My son was injured in it. I had picture, and he was in his back, like mark in his back. I have picture too. I had a lot of marks in his body. How can I explain that if that is not like force? The officer no use the force. Okay. How can I explain that? Yeah. I had the doctor. And report.
Like I mentioned, this is probably not going to be the appropriate venue to talk about specific cases like that. I'd be happy to meet with you in person, myself and the captain, but this is not specific cases like that. We can't discuss those in certain terms.
Well, I have proof over here on my phone. I sent email to the Captain Soria and asked before that one happened. I sent email. He never replied to me. I tried to contact you, and the office told me it's like, I don't know what word used, I don't remember, but they say you need to go first when the sergeant when the police officer, and then when the sergeant, and then when the captain, and then the last thing is you. So I try to contact officer and the police department. I sent email to Captain Soria. He never replied me.
Okay,
Did you receive my email, Captain Soria?
Yeah, I did.
You
And I actually
reply
have,
me?
yeah, and I can
No,
actually show that I
I
did.
don't have nothing in my, okay,
The last one you sent,
Okay.
without getting into everything and going back and forth, you sent to actually talk to him, correct? I got one from you to talk to him, so I forwarded it. I didn't forward it to him, I forwarded it to the secretary. So I don't know if she reached out to you at that point.
nobody answered to me, I'm sorry.
But I also, one last thing, I gave you an open invitation. I don't know if you remember when we sat down and first talked. When everything was done, I wanted you to come back and talk to me.
Yeah, I have your card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wish you would have, because I would have sat down with you and explained everything to you, because I know you probably had a lot of questions.
Yeah. That is the point. I'm trying to contact you or the chief, I don't know. Chavez, I'm sorry. But the police department say, no, you don't want to speak when nobody over there, you need to speak first with the sergeant. So that one is the protocol, something like that.
Sure. Well,
So-
tell you what, if you want to come in tomorrow to the office, we'll be
Yeah.
able to look at what you
Yeah.
have. I don't remember,
Yeah.
I don't know who you are, and I don't remember receiving anything
Yeah.
from you about talking, but
Yeah, make an appointment
again,
with
we-
me, and I want to go over there, so I want to take my time because it's too many things happen to my family. I'm tired about that. All the time, the police department chasing to my family. We had one property on the Bruce Street.
Yes.
An officer went to ask who's rent that house. That is important for the police department. So I leave the house. They say, why? I don't want to live anymore over here. I'm scared. So why? I told the officer and the Captain Soria, we went to the 4th of July festival one day. The police followed to us. My family came from the other state. That one was embarrassing for me. Too many things happens to my family. I don't like that. And we lived over here in Livingston for 27 years, and I don't had one ticket in my life. So I understand my son is not like, he had a lot of problems. I understand that. But the thing is, probably is our responsibility when he was young, but not now when he was an adult, okay? All the time the police stay in front of my house, look into my house, the lights, turn the lights. I'm not like that. If you need to something, speak with me or with my husband or my daughters, it's okay, go ahead. We don't have nothing to do. We don't have nothing to do. One day, we went to Mexico, and Officer Ramirez went to my house with no search warrants. They go inside my house, and our dog go out, and one car, like, ¿cómo se dice? Cuando el carro lo atropelló. Yeah, they ran over. So they know how like search warrants. Okay, that one is like too much for me. That one is the reason I'm here. And I'm nervous. This is my first time over here, but I'm tired about the Livingston Police Department. So if you need to do something with me, with my husband or my daughter, it's okay. Go to my house, look everything. We don't have nothing. We work a lot. My husband worked Saturday and Sunday, so I work a lot. So I don't understand what is wrong with us. So
Okay.
if my son have problem, go with my son. He do something wrong, he need to pay, no ours. I'm tired about that. Only one officer over here never chased to us. It's Officer Becerra, and the other one, I don't remember the name, only Becerra and other officer. The rest all the time follow to us. What is the point to follow to us? If I make something wrong, he can stop me. So honestly, I'm nervous when they follow to me. So
okay. Can I ask you something? Does your son live with
Yes.
you? Does your son live with you?
what?
Does your son live with you?
No.
He doesn't live with you?
That one is the reason. Because all the time the police go to my house, check to my house. Sometimes he go to my house. Sometimes, okay? But that one is the reason. He don't live anymore with us. Because all the time the police is around to us. And then I say, Anthony, you need to stop. Anthony, you need to follow the rules. Anthony, all the time I told Anthony, so he don't live with us. Sometimes he go to my house. But it's like, for example, I don't see my son for a few days. So where is my son? I don't know, because he don't want to come over here because he had only tickets from here, from Livingston Police Department. He don't have another ticket, probably 1 or 2 tickets from the other police department. But for Livingston Police Department, he has lots of tickets. All the time, if you want police look at my son, they stop to my son. So another thing, when his daughter born, one officer asked he apologized with my son because the officer told my son, you know what, I'm sorry. Officer Ramirez sent it to me to put more charges. What is the reason? He was in jail when his daughter born. He no had charge, he no had nothing. So, but Officer Ramirez sent to the officer to put more charges. Why? Why he not put charges in the beginning? Why? No, I don't understand that. That one is, I disagree. I no agree with police department. So if you need to speak with me, with my husband. We live in Peach. So our doors are open. We don't have nothing to do. So police department is welcome wherever they want, but in peace. One time, another thing. One time, they went to my house. My husband and me was sleeping, and then point with the gun. I don't know if it's like ¿cómo se llama the taser or the real gun. Point to my husband and me. Why? We not do anything. Why they not knock the door and say, oh, you know what? I need to speak with you or with your husband. Why he point with the taser? Why? It's scary for me. It's scary for me, for my daughter. So now my daughters-in-law live with us because his daughter passed away a few months ago. It's too many things happened to my family. We don't have problems, so we don't have more problems. So when that one happened, the police when I make the complaint, the reason was because my daughter got to live with us because his husband passed away a few months ago. And then my husband make a new room. Okay, we not ready for make a new room. And then my husband told my son, move the car away because the material need to pass by the driveway. The car was for a long time in the driveway. Why the police never went to and asked, you know what, I want to turn the car. So why? Why they wait until my son put the car in the street? So why?
All right, if you want to come by tomorrow, say around 10 o'clock.
I don't have time.
What time
At
would
10
work?
o'clock, you know what? I missed my day today. My daughter has appointment in the Valley Children's Hospital. This is another thing, so it's too many problems for me. Before 2.
Before 2?
Yeah.
That work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's make 2 o'clock. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else have any questions for the police department? If not, I'll turn it over to our fine fire chief, Baraka Carter.
Good evening. Welcome. My name is Baraka Carter. I'm battalion chief with Livingston Fire Department as well as in cooperation with Merced County Fire Department. We currently staff the Station 96 here in the city of Livingston. Our staffing is for the city of Livingston and Merced County is 1-0 staffing. So we have roughly 18 PCFs that respond to assist with our personnel. The facility is a joint facility between the city of Livingston and the county of Merced. We currently, when I say a joint facility, meaning because we have county resources, county equipment there. We have one county engine and a county water tender that responds out of the station, as well as the city has one engine, and we just purchased a new Type 6 engine that's ready to go in service any day. as well as a ladder truck. Our ladder truck's roughly 30 years old, so we're continuously working with the city to try to enhance our fleet, so that way we can make sure that we're providing the greatest and most up-to-date resources for our personnel. Some of the things that we try to do continuously is enhance the services that we provide to the residents of Livingston. That's in the city and in the county, and we do that in a number of different ways. We do that by continuously training with our neighboring communities to ensure that we have light communication, so that when we're responding to incidents, that we're all working and communicating effectively, so that we can provide a higher level of service to the residents. And then we also do this, another way that we try to accomplish enhancing the services is looking at how we can provide more personnel, because we understand that the more personnel that we have responding to the incidents, the quicker that we can contain fires, and the more personnel we'll have to be able to mitigate any medical emergency. And then the last thing that we do, we try to enhance our fleet, basically our equipment. With aging equipment, it tends to take more money and revenue to keep it in service. And then there are certain safety features that aren't as adequate with our latest equipment that's enhanced or that's being provided. We're continuously looking at trying to bolster our PCF program. So we definitely encourage anyone that's looking to be part of Merced County paid call firefighters, as well as Livingston. We encourage you to come out and tour the station. Some of the things that we're trying to do, working closely with the city to try to identify a new facility, because the facility that we currently have doesn't truly meet the needs of where the department is moving. Our equipment is getting bigger, and our facilities were built back in the 50s and the 40s, so it's not capable of housing the larger equipments that we currently have. So we're constantly looking at trying to, for an area to where we can be able to accommodate the equipment and additional personnel. The city and the county is currently looking at trying to increase our level of certainty, increase the number of personnel that we currently have at the facility. Like I said, we currently right now have one paid personnel is what you typically get when there is an emergency response. But we tend to get PD out assisting, putting out fires with us, as well as medical emergencies, and then our paid call firefighter program as well. Is there any questions for the fire department?
Is it working? Okay, I have a question. We recently just dedicated the Type 6 fire truck. So if I'm understanding correctly, it's not in service yet?
It is not in service yet. We did dedicate it this past Saturday. We're still waiting on some language to ensure that there's like a no hold harmless agreement, because it's purchased by the city, but the personnel that would be responding to the equipment are county employees. So we just want to ensure that there's an understanding of if there is any damages or anything to the equipment, that neither entity is held liable.
Okay, I can understand maybe the need for something like that. I mean, we've got equipment that the county is already sharing, yes or no?
Correct.
And this Type 6 engine has been on the horizon for weeks, months. Is there anyone here that can explain to me why it's taking so long to get this language in place? And how much longer are we going to have to wait before this language is in place and everybody's happy, so that we can actually use the truck that we've got and paid for?
So the language has been provided by the county. It's been presented to the city, and we're waiting for city legal to review it and make sure that that everything falls in line.
Any idea how long that's going to take? Is there anyone here in this room that can shed a little more light on the subject?
Boy, Catherine, you know, that was pretty clear. I'm glad you called me up. Yes, absolutely. So first of all, let me just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is José Antonio Ramirez. I'm the city manager. Yo me llamo José Antonio Ramirez. Soy el administrador de aquí de la alcaldía. And so to answer your question, legal received it yesterday, so I anticipate by the end of the week, we should get that back. And once we get it back, it'll be a quick turnaround, because then the county would then have to look at whatever edits that we actually are presenting. And once that happens, if we agree to the verbiage, then it'll go before the July 16th council for ratification. Well, no, at this point, we were just looking for the language from, actually, the county was the one that wanted to have this language. And the language that was received by my office was basically, whatever you do, it doesn't matter if it's our fault, you pay. I can't accept language like that. So I sent it off to our legal counsel to see if there's any way to massage it, that I can then send it back and then make it palatable for our elected officials. So again, I anticipate by the end of the week to have the verbiage and then sent back, and that should, and I believe by the 16th of July, we should be fine.
I think that was a punch he used, light a fire, so. Actually, I think Catherine deserves a ride once we get it in service, the first one to take a little ride along with the fire department.
Any other questions?
You guys are live on YouTube, so you got to use the mic so they can hear you.
All right. Good evening. And I think this is a question for both fire and PD. I know we're fast approaching 4th of July. We've been in the community for quite some time. And actually earlier this morning, I was having a conversation with two other people. The conversation started around illegal fireworks. And this, although the illegal fireworks problem has always been there, up to a certain point, but now with the dry season, with the fires, like right now on Patterson Pass, we have a lot of dry grass around town, the roofs, so their concern is, it's like, well, I'm always, actually, somebody said, I'm always having illegal fireworks, not even close to 4th of July. Sometimes we don't call because we're hoping that it's just one of those isolated cases, but sometimes it's like, even during the week, somebody has a birthday and, there's fireworks. And are we expecting to have more patrols during that week around town, in the afternoon, in the evenings, at night? Yes, this probably we're cutting to overtime and stuff like that for some of the people, but what can we do to be able to answer those questions for not only, primarily now that we're getting closer to 4th of July?
So a couple things that we typically try to do, and the first thing we try to do is mitigation. Right? So with our weed abatement program, we get out early on in the months, May, June, to start our weed abatement process, and that identifies any areas that have any grass that's bordering the fence line over 6 inches or anything like that, right? So we get that process starting early on, so that way we can try to mitigate the vegetation part of things. But then one of the other things that we'll do is for the 4th, we'll bolster our responses by having an additional engine staff for response that's rarely available to respond to calls like that. One of the things that I discourage my personnel from doing is engaging or confronting personnel that have illegal fireworks, because it's not their role for enforcement. So they're there for, to mitigate the hazard. So, we won't go out patrolling, nor will we go out and try to enforce the use. What we will do, though, is we may just drive around to be seen, all right? So then that sometimes discourages, the use of illegal fireworks. But what I would say is, if you have relatives, neighbors, or even the community that sees illegal fireworks being used, call 911, get a hold of law enforcement, and then they can do the law enforcement side of things.
Yeah, if I could just add, I appreciate the question, and this problem is inherent to many communities in the state. A lot of those illegal fireworks come in through other states, and there's been some very proactive enforcement to try to reduce the amount that come into our state. But it is truly a problem, and we will personally have some officers out enforcing that. And I think we're very fortunate to have the battalion chief in charge of the Office of Emergency Services here, who will be putting together a unified press conference on Tuesday. And it will have some information on that, but we will have all police departments, all fire departments involved in this event, and we're going to show a unified presence on how we're going to enforce that. And if you didn't know that, there are firefighters that carry guns, and they're part of the law enforcement component of CAL FIRE that will be out patrolling different areas, and those folks are the experts in enforcement of the violations of illegal fireworks. And so we're doing what we can. I don't think it's one of those things that will be going away, but hopefully we can minimize it. And frankly, and it's very dangerous to have illegal fireworks. You're going to blow off your fingers, you're going to blow off your hand, you're going to kill somebody, you're going to start fires. But I think the mindset that we battle is people think it's just a celebration for our the independence of our nation. It's not like doing something illegal, like selling drugs or stabbing somebody. It's, I've got some fireworks, I'm celebrating that's kind of the mindset. But it is something that's very, very dangerous, and we need to make sure people realize how dangerous it is, and that we will be taking enforcement action if we do encounter you with illegal fireworks or setting them off as well. And so we encourage our residents, if you want to call us anytime, if you have an area that it's occurring at, let us know. If you have an address, let us know, and we'll go out there and we'll investigate that. But it's something that it is very important to not only the fire department, but the police department as well.
Thank you. A couple of questions just to follow up. One, is the fines, are they pretty much across the board the same per county, per city? Is there a difference, or do you know? Can you give us more, versus just catching someone with illegal fireworks versus, selling, possession, and use of illegal fireworks? If you know. And the other idea is, like, thinking ahead for next year, could we consider something like 3 or 4 months ahead of time and start planning an education process? And, along with some of the schools, maybe, kind of do a workshop at our different schools when there's parents meetings, and say, this is going to be coming up, this is what's going to be happening, and, in prevention, we need you to be aware of this, and that. Yes, I understand that it is, this could be more of a process of educating ahead of time, instead of waiting until the day off and we're just going to go out all in full force and try to prevent it, because it's going to be more difficult. Right. Just an idea. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if there are any, to answer your first question, I don't know if there's any standard fine or fee for individuals that are caught with the use of fireworks, illegal fireworks. I know certain cities will impose certain fines, and they'll have it in their ordinance. I believe Merced City has an ordinance that if you're caught with illegal fireworks, then there's fines that are associated with that. I'm not familiar if the county has one. Maybe Chief Ron or Chief Cells, are you guys aware of the county having anything? Okay. And I'm not familiar of anything in the county, and I don't believe that the city has. The city has ordinance with fines?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the actual fine, well, go ahead.
You want to sit up here, Jose?
Oh, this is your forum. So a question for Barack. So in terms of, I think it would be helpful if we let folks know kind of a little bigger overview that you don't just put out fires, you know, some of the other aspects of the department and what you do, and then the relationship that we as a city have with CAL FIRE, and then CAL FIRE with the county, and then, you know, and then the big cheese is here, you know. So if you can do that for us, that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Merced, basically, Livingston City contracts with the County of Merced for fire protection. So what that means is, you know, Livingston pays a certain fee to the county. The county provides personnel to respond to medical emergencies, fires, hazardous material incidents, technical rescues. If you have a smoke detector that's beeping, we'll come out and assist you with changing out the batteries and stuff like that. But then in turn, the County of Merced contracts with the state of California, CAL FIRE. So that's why you'll see someone with a CAL FIRE patch, but they may be driving a Merced County piece of equipment, but responding in the city of Livingston. All right, so it would be as if like the city of Livingston PD contracted with Merced SO, who in turn contracted with CHP to provide services. So the county then pays the state, and then the state provides the personnel. All right, and we're an all-risk fire department, so we respond to any call, whether it's a medical emergency, whether it's a structure fire, vegetation fire, debris fire, vehicle accidents. If you fell out of bed and you're needing, or if you have a headache, whatever it is, we'll come out and assist you. Then also what we do is we also do weed abatements. We do school presentations. We're do facility inspections, and we're looking into business inspections as well. So it's a multifaceted. Basically, it's more of like a prevention, which we always try to push for is prevention, because if we can prevent the emergency from happening, then it's beneficial for the residents as well as the employees, right? And it keeps us, we do a lot of public education. We do a lot of school events. We go out and do some public education at the retirement homes, the elderly care facilities. And it's just to kind of keep everybody in tune and aware of like us being safe-minded. We also respond, we have personnel that that are part of an incident management team that responds statewide to large incidents. And it could be like the large devastating fires you've seen last year, or it could be mudslides, it could be hurricanes. So we have 6 teams throughout the state, and each team comprises of individuals from local government and state personnel. And they're typically a 53-person team, and they assemble and respond to different types of emergencies statewide.
Thank you, Chief. There's a question.
I'm going to help you out, Brock. For the city of Livingston, I'm a resident. All my kids have gone to school here, and we've all gone to the fire department. So, being one of the parents that volunteer for everything, I have been to the fire department probably more times than I can count. Even as a Girl Scout leader, we have gone to the fire department. So they do more than just show up if you call 911. They provide the education that Mr. Moran was talking about. If you go to the fire department, all the schools get the coloring book, they get the badge, they get the hat, which does talk about fireworks safety in it. All you have to do is read it. And it's in there. And it's in plain language. It's given to school-age children who are learning to read. So these things are really simple. They come out to all of our city events. So if you're out at any of our city events, you will see the fire department out there. I tell my staff personally that if you're not sure and someone's hurt, call 911. It doesn't cost anything unless you actually get in the vehicle. So don't get in the vehicle. Just make sure that everybody's okay. So they come out for our 4th of July. They're out for that. They're, like I said, any event, they are present. And sometimes just the presence of our police department, to our fire department, you can reach out to them. They are not hard to find. They are very accessible. And like I said, just show up. And they're also friendly. Brian's usually here with us normally. And so Brian's a really easy guy. Just had a baby not too long ago. So again, these people are very human. Becerra, Chief, all of them, we know their children. They're very accessible as human beings, so they're not unattainable or unapproachable. So if you'd like to have a conversation with them, please do so, because they do help out the city a lot.
Thank you.
Chief Baraka, one other, in terms of what else does the department do as CAL FIRE as a whole, as a fire department, in terms of when we have, either existing facilities or new facilities that are being built in town, if you want to elaborate a little bit more about that.
So we also, through the contract, we provide the fire marshal office. All right, so the fire marshal does all the plan reviews, does a lot of the inspections, the new and existing facility inspections. We come out and, through the fire marshal's office, we make sure that, the sprinkler systems are in place, making sure that everything is fire safe, make sure that the multi-residential apartments, we go through those and we ensure that like egress and access is not hindered or blocked, so that way if there is any type of emergency, that you're able to get out. We work with the community to building like emergency plans, like emergency escape plans. So if you have if you're in question or you're wanting to try to build an escape plan, you can call us out and we can go through with you and look at the layout of your home and kind of give you some ideas as to what you can do to be fire safe.
Yeah, speaking to CAL FIRE doing more than just what's in Livingston and bouncing off of the large incident response triggered a thought that I've already brought up, and that is what is going on with Castle Air Force Base's tanker recharge station. I'm hearing more than one thing. I'm pretty sure this might be, the answer to this question may be above your pay grade, but I'm hoping there's someone in the room that can give us a better idea as to, has that tanker base been closed? Or is there something in the works to reopen it, but at another location on the base?
So sitting in the audience is my chief, Chief Jeremy Ron.
All right, good morning, or good morning. Feels like morning, right? Jeremy Ron, Merced County Division Chief, also Assistant Chief. Also with me is your Fire Chief, Mike Van Lobensel's. To kind of answer your question about Castle is, yes, the U.S. Forest Service is contracted with the county for the airplanes that have been out there over the last few years. They are still, they have a different location, but it is still worked with the county for the Forest Service to contract with the county to provide that service. It wasn't a CAL FIRE air base. I think to be more specific is they did geographically move from a section of the runway to where a hangar is due to an agreement that the county made with some research and development on self-driving cars. So what they did is they moved that operation to another section within the Castle Airport. But the Forest Service basically moved their stuff over to a new hangar, and they are out there working with the county and is available through the agreement to staff their aircraft. As far as the agreement being current as of today, I don't have that information, but I do know the county has been working side by side with them to make sure that the flight line is available for them if they need it.
This is for our police department. So one other aspect that the police department oversees is animal control. So Chief, if you can talk a little bit about, or Chris, about, you know, our the animal control department, and then kind of what our you know, kind of what we can do, because I know there's been a lot of questions about, you know, stray cats and what we can do with stray cats and not, and I think it would be nice at this moment in time. And then I'll talk a little bit about the dog park, and there's some residents that have a little bit of concern about where the designated dog park is going, and we'll talk a little about that, but I want to turn it over to you first.
Sure. You know, I'll talk about the cats first, and then I'll turn over to Captain to talk about animal control. But one of the questions that came up last council meeting was basically a catch and spay and neuter release program, and that's something that our department has looked at because we were approached by it. I did talk to Chief Mike Salvador from Atwater PD, because I wanted to ask him what his thoughts were on this program. First of all, cats are not regulated like dogs are. Dogs you have to have confined, you have to have a license. Cats are basically free to roam the neighborhoods. And so for us to put out traps and catch somebody's pet is probably not going to go very far in the terms of community relations. If somebody has an issue with the feral cat, if they do trap it and they take it to the animal shelter in Atwater, the department's going to be charged $100. And we've had situations where a resident brought a feral cat with 5 kittens, and we ended up getting a $600 bill. Well, with that said, I'm all supportive of responsible pet ownership, to include spay and neuter for feral cats. If we have programs out there that can do that, great. As a department, that's something that's very cost prohibitive. For that program, Atwater PD was paying anywhere from $500 to $3,000 a month for that program. And they are no longer going to be actively involved in that program. If they do, they're going to really negotiate a much, much lower rate, because that's a big impact to our general fund. We owe it to our residents to be responsible for public dollars and looking at you know, the issue, not that it's not an important issue, but looking at an issue for us to fund a program like that, we need to look at how we can fund those programs in a private manner. I will turn over to the captain, since he oversees animal control services, and talk about the function of animal control.
There was also a question that came up by the lady who actually talked about that we don't respond to all cat calls. We do. If there's an injured animal, we will go out. Either our animal control officer will or an officer will. We're required by law to do that. Any injured animal, we will go out and respond. During the day, she patrols the street, tries to attempt to catch dogs that are strays. It is a difficult task to do. There are times where from start to finish, it could take hours, just trying for her to follow a dog to get it, to coax it to come in with her. So it does take time. She does put out traps, especially for the little ones that roam around here by the truck over here. So she has been doing that as well. She has been out the last couple of weeks. But anytime after hours, or even if she's gone, any type of public safety issue, like if dogs are in the schools, aggressive, injured, we will respond no matter if she's working or not. So call, and if there's an issue with anything regarding the animal control, please, I encourage people to give me a call. Again, we're not perfect, and if there's something that I can rectify and I can fix, then I will. Yeah, that's basically what animal control basically does on a day-to-day basis when she works.
I do know we do get complaints on certain residents with illegal chickens and roosters and things like that. We have taken enforcement action in the past. I think they did an operation probably about 9 years ago where they confiscated a bunch of roosters, and I think it costs the city like $3,000 to take those to the shelter. So if we have an alternative, resource to take those chickens and roosters, that'd be great. But it is something that, again, it's going to hit the budget, and we want to do what we can. However, we want to look at being responsible department members and with our general fund money.
Well, I appreciate all of you three chatting specifically about your departments and what you do and how it impacts the community. So what I wanted to talk about right now was specifically related to the dog park. We've been getting quite a bit of requests from a lot of different members in the community about having a dog park. So we actually came up with a tentative plan of having a dog park at Lucero Park. And of course, we want to educate the community of what a dog park is. So first, it's not, it's a designated area that's fenced in, that has, the proper facilities there so that, the dogs can drink water, and there's a fence latch so that people can release their dog without having, because anywhere in the city, if you're walking your dog, it has to be with a leash, okay? You can't be, your dog can't be loose, number one. Number two, in terms of dogs being vicious and so, because some people might say, well, my dog's gonna get attacked by another dog. I mean, can that happen? Yes. However, it's really the responsibility of the pet owner, okay? A lot of times these pets are spayed and neutered, okay, and they're non-aggressive, etc. And so your pet, okay? And so the idea is it's supposed to be a place where you can let your dog loose. There shouldn't be any problems with other pets. You can play with them, etc. So again, it's fenced in, and it's half shaded and half non-shaded. And so I know that there was a family that is circulating a little petition, and we're going to be meeting with them. We want to continue to educate them, because maybe the concept of what they had in mind, all these dogs fighting, maybe kids roaming around and getting, bitten, who knows? And then the other thing too is you have to, be after your pet in terms of if they go one or two, number two, of course. They have to. Pick after their pet, pick up their stool, etc. Okay, so if you have any questions, and if there's any viewers have questions, please send us an email, come over to City Hall, etc. Give us a call, and we're more than happy to talk to you about that. And then lastly, Mr. Moran, who's here in the audience, Livingston has to have every kind of festival, so he came up with the pet festival, and he's a mascot lover, I would say, and so, which is great. And so we had our pet festival not too long ago. If you have any ideas, one of the things that I would like to see is the community start to register their pets like they're supposed to. A lot of the smaller dogs, they're roaming around everywhere. I'm afraid to be in front of City Hall and the Merced Sunstar on the other side of the street, and then capture a photo of me coming out of the City Hall with the dogs running around. And I can know what the headlines is going to say: "City going to the dogs." No, I don't want that. So, anyways, we're trying to do the best we can, and the only way we can do it is with the help of the community. So, get the word out there, and thank you very much. Anything else, gentlemen, that you wanted to cover? Any other questions from the public? One of our council members in the back, any questions? No? ¿Algunas preguntas? No? Nada? Turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we still might be able to catch some of the College World Series or the Democratic debates if you guys want to race home. So have a good night. Thank you.